Number 41. Which representation shows the same relationship as g of x equals 4/3 times 6x plus 3? Number 42. If f of x equal 2/3 x squared plus 8x, what is the value of f of 6? Record your answer and fill in the bubbles on your answer document. Number 43. An architecture student is drawing a graph of an arch. As shown below, the arch has the shape of a parabola that begins at the origin and has a vertex at 4.6, 12.2. Other than the origin, at what point will the graph intersect the x-axis? A. 12.20, B. 9.20, C. 4.60, D. 10.60. Number 44. The volume of two identical cubes is related to the edge length of the cubes. Which function represents the combined volume of these cubes? F, y equal 2x to the third, G, y equal x to the third, H, y equal 8x to the third, J, y equal 2x squared. Number 45. The slope and y-intercept of the line represented by y equal 2/5 x plus 3/15 are both divided by -1/5 to create a new line. Which graph represents the new line? Number 46. A boy has 380 prize tickets he wants to exchange for action figures at a prize booth. At this prize booth, 5 tickets can be exchanged for a large action figure, and 7 tickets can be exchanged for 2 small action figures. The boy wants 4 times as many small action figures as large action figures. Based on this information, can the boy get 80 small action figures? F. No, because he would not have enough tickets for 20 large action figures. G. Yes, because he would still have enough tickets for 320 large action figures. H. No, because he would not have enough tickets for 320 large action figures. J. Yes, because he would still have enough tickets for 20 large action figures. Number 47. Which expression is equivalent to 3c times 1/3 d minus 9 minus 7 times c plus 1 plus d times c plus 4? A. 2cd minus 34c plus 4d minus 7. B. 2cd minus 7c minus 4. C. 2cd plus 34c plus 4d plus 7. D. 2cd plus 8c plus 4. Number 48. What is the equation of the line that has a slope of 0 and passes through the point 6, -8? F. X equals 6. G. Y equals 6. H. X equal -8. J. Y equal -8. Number 49. A candy company sells cases of chocolate bars. The company has fixed cost of $30,000, and each case of chocolate bars costs an additional $5 to make. The company sells each case for $10. The graph of a system of linear equations representing this company's cost and revenue for manufacturing and selling X cases of chocolate bars is shown below. How many cases of chocolate bars will this company need to sell in order for cost and revenue to be equal? A. 3,500, B. 6,000, C. 35,000, D. 60,000. Number 50. Which expression is equivalent to z to the a times z to the b all over z to the c? F. Z to the a minus b minus c. G. Z to the a minus b plus c. H. Z to the a plus b minus c. J. Z to the a plus b plus c. Number 51. The scatter plot shows the relationship between the distance that students traveled to get to school and the number of times those students were tardy during the school year. The principal of the school wants to use this information to help him determine if there is a correlation between distance traveled and the number of times tardy. Which statement is a reasonable conclusion that the principal could make? A student who travels 1.5 miles to get to school will be tardy 9 times during the school year. B, a student who travels more than 3 miles to get to school will be tardy at least 7 times during the school year. C, there is no correlation between the distance a student travels to get to school and the number of times the student will be tardy during the school year. D, there is a nonlinear correlation between the distance a student travels to get to school and the number of times the student will be tardy during the school year. Number 52. A tennis player broke the old record for the most matches won in a tournament by at least 2 matches. Which inequality can be used to find all possible values of t, the number of matches the player won, in terms of r, the old record? F, t is less than or equal to r minus 2. G, t is greater than or equal to 2r. H, t is less than or equal to r over 2. J, t is greater than or equal to r plus 2. Number 53. The cost of staying at a hotel can be found using the function y equal 129x plus 995, where x is the number of days a guest stays at the hotel and y is the cost in dollars. The cost includes a flat fee for internet access. If the fee for internet access is not included, which statement is true? A, the cost is $9.95 less per day. B, the cost is $9.95 less. C, the cost is $9.95 more per day. D, the cost is $9.95 more. Number 54. The table shows the population P of mice in a field at the end of M months. Based on the data in the table, what will be the population of mice in the field at the end of 8 months? F, 192. G, 3,072. H, 1,536. J, 256.